Y'all, listen. If there is one thing I've learned, adversity does not build character. Adversity reveals character. I'm Barbie Bassett, and I invite you to join me and my friends, Therese, Apel, and Traci Lee, as we peel back those adversity layers to see what else is revealed. Y'all listen here. We are back for episode 4. Can you believe that this is our 4th episode, friends?
No. I'm so glad I made it.
Yeah, we're all glad that we made it. I have got my fabulous friends here with me today. I've got Therese Apel with Dark Horse Press. Hey, Therese.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, and then we've got Traci Lee with Your 96.3 Country. Yes. Looking beautiful in her blue, by the way. Oh, wait, you got to show the bow. Can you turn your head just a little bit?
Turn it. It's my bow.
It looks really good. I like it.
Fancy.
My little bow. And, of course, I got to do the hottie toddy.
Show the earrings.
Yes, those are
cute.
cute.
Earrings. Go Ole Miss.
Those are so cute. And then we've got our man with the plan, Daniel Anderson with Audio Alchemy Productions.
That's right.
Yes, we've got something special going on today for all of you who are joining us here on this live, and that is if you will share this right now, just go up there and click the little share button right there. You are going to be entered for a chance to win a $100 gift card, and we are going to be giving that at the very end of this podcast. But you got to share it in order to possess it. Okay, we'll pick one winner. In fact, I think Daniel, are you going to get me that name, or no? I'll pick the name. We'll find us a name here, so you can see all the rules and whatnot in the comment section right now. And we are again thrilled to have you here with us because it has been a couple of weeks since we last saw you. And of all things that we're talking about today, that 3-letter word, joy. Joy. Yeah. How do we keep the joy, especially when things around us seem to be falling apart? Now, I learned a little acrostic years ago, and the older I get, the more I might or might not disagree with this, that joy stands for Jesus first, others second, yourself last. But the older I've gotten, I'm like, why am I always last? Anybody else understand what I'm talking about?
Oh, that's always the question. But I think, the hard part is that, you can get into that frame of mind that's like, gosh, again, God, I never get to worry about myself. I'm always thinking about somebody else. But when you learn to just tune that out, all of a sudden joy becomes real because, you learn to kind of sit still in those hard places and, really figure out where your life source comes from, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So true.
I always heard that joy stands for Jesus overshadowing you.
Oh, wait.
That way it kind of takes that.
I love that. Say that again.
Jesus overshadowing you. Yeah. Because, if you watch how joy progresses through the Bible, it ends with him. Mm-hmm. In Psalm, we always talk about joy comes in the morning. And that's what we're doing. Joy comes to you in the morning. You go through trials, you go through tribulations, and joy comes to you in the morning after the weeping. It doesn't say the weeping leaves. It doesn't say the tribulations leave, but joy comes. And then you fast forward to Thessalonians, and it says Jesus is the joy that comes. So it's like Jesus is overshadowing you and all of that stuff that happens. Jesus is the promise of joy that David spoke about. And I just think it's so fitting, and just like God in the order of the way he does things, that here is the lineage from which God chose to bring Jesus, talking about joy coming in the morning, and then he comes.
But let's be real. Being joyful all the time.
It sucks.
Well, I wasn't going to say that.
I'll say it. It absolutely sucks. And especially with people in our profession, we don't get to be down, because people expect a certain thing. Nobody wants to turn on the radio and hear me crying because I'm upset about something.
That is true. In fact, I was accused years ago of being, fake. because every time that people would see me out in public and, they would come up to you and say, oh, I watch you all the time on television. And oh, thank you so much. And while I do believe that that is real, because I truly am appreciative, I mean, so appreciative when people have said that they enjoyed watching or something like this with this podcast.
Sure.
I'm getting that now out and about. People are loving watching it or loving listening to it. But this person who was with me was like, that's just so fake. I mean, like, how can you truly be appreciative all the time when you know that there are other people who can't stand you? And that is true.
Well, and I feel like that's like something that society teaches us. And I always laugh about how Facebook, you get on there and there's, all these people reposting something that says something like, I'm going to give back the energy I get. Or, those things that are like, don't mess with me type posts. Like, I'm tough, don't mess with me, that kind of nonsense. And then you very rarely see somebody being like, you know what, I just love my life and I love the people in my life. Like, you don't see that a lot. And to me, that's the whole thing is like, the world tells us that we're not supposed to forgive and forget. We're not supposed to love. We're not supposed to, do these things in spite of what's been done to us. But when you can find that place and you understand that that is about, God did that for us first. And so to be able to turn around and do that without any strings attached, without any like, okay, well, guess what? Like, I'm going to make sure and get revenge for that thing you did to me before I'm ever nice to you again, or whatever like that. It's so simple, but it's something that we're not taught and we're not enforcing in ourselves or others anymore.
Well, Melvin just made a comment, and he says, and thank you for this, Melvin. It says, joy is not the absence. Oh, where'd it go? Yeah, here it is. We're going to show it. Being joyful doesn't mean the absence of sadness.
Oh, yes.
Reach.
Absolutely.
My word.
Yes.
Isn't that the truth? And again, we talk about this quite a bit because we're close friends, but I think about my situation.
Yeah.
that Daniel, I'm waiting on you to laugh.
I'm focused on you guys.
Yeah.
Daniel always laughs when I say the situation.
And that's where I'm supposed to say the catastrophe.
Well-
And then Tracy says the catastrophe.
Yes.
That's what we do now.
But y'all know that I was not joyful. I was grieved. I was sad. And if anything, I wanted to crawl into a hole and die. And I dare say that all of you have been there before in your life, whether there is something that's gone on and you just want to hide because there is the great sadness that is there. But at the same time, I had to pull out from really just my experiences with the Lord myself and say, you know what, God's got this. He is so faithful. God has got this. I will find that joy again. That joy didn't leave. It just kind of went dormant for a little bit, if that makes sense. I think we've all been there.
Well, and I think sometimes there's a misconception that joy is happiness.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not. Joy and happiness are two totally different things. Joy comes from somewhere that can't be shaken, and that's why it's different. It's more solid. It's more real. It's more tangible. You can touch it. Happiness comes and goes.
Yes.
It's so fleeting. But with joy, something that I think believers have access to because of Jesus is joy. It's different. You can't steal it. You'll probably say, you're not going to steal my joy.
Yeah.
You're not going to.
Yeah.
Not going to. I mean, you can't. And I know that's my Pentecostal side coming out, where you're not going to take it. But I think happiness, we can be happy and we can be sad, but joy can sustain the sadness. It can go through the storm of the sadness and come out where happiness gets shredded. It's just to get shredded when you have a bad day, when you get a bad report, when you get a phone call, when somebody's mean to you, your happiness is gone.
Well, joy is rooted in hope and in love and in, self-sacrifice even and courage. You think about all the things that joy is made up of. And happiness can be because of love or because of, something like that. But happiness it exists in itself in a small way, and joy exists because of all the other things, or not because of, but as a part of all the other things in a big way. And to me, it's a picture of like God is big like joy. We are small like happiness. So when you think about happiness is fleeting, joy lasts forever. And that's the difference when you're in a tough time, is that as you fall back on God, as you remember that things are eternal, that He's eternal, joy is eternal. Sadness, weeping lasts for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Can I ask a question? Do you think that joy gives us the freedom and the bandwidth to experience the sadness?
Yes.
Oh, I think so. Yes.
Because I know your heart was so broken the first time that we saw you. And it killed me. Like, it killed me to see you hurt like that. And I know Therese and I talked on several times. Your whole career, everything you worked for was gone in a split second. It was gone. And for us doing the same thing, we're like, my gosh, if that doesn't put that into perspective. But knowing you and knowing your faith and knowing the things that you do, you were going to experience joy again. Joy wasn't gone. It just gave you the room to breathe and grieve.
Well, I think about the scripture that says the joy of the Lord is my strength. And even through the dark times that, I've gone through or what y'all have gone through, it's that joy in the Lord, not joy in myself, not joy in what I've done or what I've accomplished, but the joy in the Lord that is giving me that strength. So that way the sadness does not take over. And let's be honest, none of us are professional counselors,
No.
so we can't give that type of advice, but we are professional humans.
Yes.
And we've been there, we've done that, we're still there, still doing that, but really relying on the joy of the Lord, it doesn't allow the sadness to take over and allow the depression to come in. Because even when I did want to crawl in a hole and die and actually contemplated suicide,
Yeah.
I had to hold on to that joy.
Oh, I hate that.
Yeah.
I think, so I pulled this up as soon as we got started. Hebrews 12:2. Now, Hebrews is one of my very favorite books of the Bible. I mean, and I used to fall asleep listening to it because I just loved it so much. But don't forget, it says that we look unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. Now, to me, what that means is because of the joy that he knew was coming, he endured. And that goes back to what we talked about last time about perseverance. When you find yourself in the middle of that thing and you feel like joy is so far away.
Yeah.
Well, it's out there and it's very real, and it's just sticking it through this part.
I love that you said it's real, because I still adhere to the fact that James was having a good day when he wrote, "Count it all joy."
Yeah.
When you go through trials and tribulations, I'm like, you woke up on the right side of the bed, But I know there are people that are probably listening right now that are going, but you don't know. You don't know
Yes.
the pain and the sorrow and the loss that I'm going through right now, and I don't know, but he does. And he can see you through that. And I think that's where the whole concept of Jesus being the joy that we tap into lasts through the storm. Because, and we can sit here all day long and be like, it's be great, it's joyful, it's going to be fine. But the reality is there's life. When we walk out the door, we walk into life and things that we're dealing with in real world situations, things that you're dealing with in real world situations. Maybe you don't want to go home from work because it's going to be a weekend.
Wow.
Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your spouse, maybe you don't have either and you're really lonely. Whatever that case may be, you don't have to be happy. Again, joy is so much deeper than that. And it's available for everybody.
Well, Therese, you were just reading out of Hebrews 12. And so I'd actually written down Hebrews 13:6 that says, "So we say with confidence, the Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me?" And many times when we lose the joy, or when we, I guess we could say, misplace the joy, if you will, what comes at us in all directions is guilt and sadness and worry and anxiety. And so what he's saying in Hebrews 13:6, I am confident that the Lord is my helper and I will not be afraid. Joy, I've learned over the years, confuses the enemy.
100%.
And it confuses the enemies that are watching you. So when they see you continue to move on in joy, because you've got that peace that passes understanding. It confuses them. How can you get up here and do a podcast, Traci? How can you do a podcast, Therese, based on everything that you've gone through in your life and still have joy? But it is that peace that passes all understanding.
Well, I think to me also you have to think of it. I was just thinking while you were talking. It's kind of like the sun to me. Joy is like the sun. Even when the clouds move in front of it, the grief, the guilt, the sadness, the stress, whatever it is, in real life, I say in real life, joy is the real life. But, you see the clouds move in front of the sun for real, and you're not afraid the sun isn't going to come back. But it is so easy to be like, man, what if I never feel joy again? But just remember, these things that block joy are just moving through. They're just like the clouds, and that storm is going to pass. And I think, it's like I keep getting emotional over here thinking about it. And, of course, y'all know I'm going through some stuff. My dad's in the hospital right now, and so I'm emotional anyway. But it's like I keep thinking, I remember when I didn't believe that joy was always there. I remember when I didn't understand exactly how to access a relationship with God that made it so that I could, even in the yuck times, go, but that's okay. You know what? Like, we're all going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And even in a situation where, things are dark and scary and whatever, the fact that you can just sit and you can think about the fact that the God of the universe sent his one and only son, and that's cliche to some people, but it's so real to us. And it's like, it just makes you just want to tell people, like, find that. Do what you have to, to find that, because that's where you cross over from, oh gosh, will I ever be happy? Will I ever be joyful again? To like, count it all joy.
I want to take the pressure off too, because you said find that, and I think that we do need to be open to that. But I think joy finds us.
That's true
too. And being women, and I did not think I was romantic until I started watching my Chinese dramas, and now I'm like, I'm here for this. Right. So, but there's when in this culture, when they want to pursue a girl, they ask, "May I pursue you?" And they spend time pursuing her. And it's so sweet because she is so like cherished and put up. We're in America, we're like, so are we doing this or not? But I think that God is like that a lot. He's so pursuing us. And as a girl, I love that. I love to be pursued and to feel like I don't have to be the one to hold it all together all the time. And he's such a God of wooing and such a God of pursuing that I think when David said, weeping may come for a night, but joy comes in the morning. Joy is coming to you. It is coming to you. It's seeking you. It's trying to get to you. But I think it's on us to be still, and let it come.
And I think that makes so much sense, because in today's world, we're all so broken. It's hard to accept love. When, for so many of us, when love finds you, and you're like, I don't know what this is. It's freaking me out. Yeah. What do? I slam the door on it.
100%.
Joy is the same way.
Yeah.
It's like joy. I love that you said that, because as soon as you start to really feel like, wow, like I'm starting to get it, that's where you have to open the door wide and just say, I'm open to this. I'm here for this.
Plus, it takes the responsibility off of us to try to find it.
Yeah.
That's just one more thing we have to do. And I'm like, have you seen my list today? I don't have time to search for joy. And joy will find you if you just stop. It finds you.
I'm looking here at the comments. And by the way, y'all's comments, whoa, Nellie. There's one that Lori posted. Just go a little bit further there. Lori says that grief is so hard that so many people don't understand, and they want to put a timestamp on their grief. Yeah. Like, you should be over this by now. Thankfully, God never forsakes us, and he allows things to happen to us so we can lean into him and grow deeper in him. So, yes, Lori, I mean, preach on, sister. You can still be grieving something, some type of a loss. And I'm looking at you, and you've got tears in your eyes, but I'm going to hold it together.
Okay, me too.
You can be going through grief of a thing or a person or a situation and still have that joy because he lives. And because of your relationship with the Lord. I mean, y'all, I think about this. I think about the situations that we see on the news, or I think about situations that I know that are happening in other people's lives. And I think, how in the world are they able to go through that situation without a personal relationship
I don't know.
with the Lord and with and communion with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Like there are times when I just need the Holy Spirit just to tell me what to do, just to function for the day. You know?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about in the Psalms, I think it is, where it talks about being a tree planted by the waters. And there's a song, So My Soul Longs After You. But the thing that I was thinking about is I pictured that, and I thought, if you don't have that basis of joy, that root system, and of that depth of a relationship with Christ, anything that comes along is going to wash you away. And that's why, even in the depth of grief, in the depth of, depression or stress or any of the things that derail us. I mean, everything these days, we're all such an emotional society, and our own emotion is all that matters in so many cases. Well, that's why people are canceling people, because they can't do anything else, or they're, all the different things that come with being selfish and emotionally selfish. But when you have that foundation, it's like you can let everything go past you and you still stand.
Yeah, and I want to cut some slack. There seem to be so many things that we have to hold on to. We've got to hold on to our joy. We've got to hold on to our peace. We've got to do, all this stuff. I can't do all that. Like I can't juggle it. I can't hold on to it. Let me simplify it for you with the story about the woman with the issue of blood. She had been trying to do it all. She had been to everybody. She had done everything. For 12 years, she had the issue of blood. I can't barely do 6 days. 12 years. And she was called unclean. She was called all of these things. And I have a picture in my mind when she heard that Jesus was there, this was it for her. This was the last thing. And I just see this picture of this crowd and this dusty street, and she's hot and she's hurting, and somebody's going to recognize her and tell her she's unclean and she doesn't have a reason to be there. And she gets pushed down on the ground. Why do I know this? Because the only thing she could touch was the hem of his garment. She is face down in the dirt, probably crying. I would be, especially if I'm 12 years in, and mud on her face, and the only thing she can reach out and touch is the hem of his garment. And it was enough. Yep. It was enough. It was so much enough. Jesus stopped in the middle of all that madness, and he's like, who touched me? And his disciples are like, are you insane? What do you mean who touched you? Everybody touched you. Everybody's here. He said, not like this. Not like this. Somebody touched me in a different way, and I felt power go out of me. So sometimes you don't have to hold on to all the little pieces. Sometimes you can be trampled in the dirt, and all you have to do is reach out, and it can just brush over you and be enough. Just brush over you and be enough.
That was a revelation, wasn't it, Daniel?
And you know what? Let me add to
That was
that,
big.
because what's so cool to think about is Jesus was present in that crowd.
Yeah.
He was there for it. He was there with everybody else. He's present with us every day.
100%.
But in that moment that you are on your face and that you've been fighting for that long, and that he's your only hope, and you don't even know if you can quite reach him, and all you get is the hem of the garment, he knows. And take it out of the context of that story, put it in every day when you are searching, and it's different than, hey God, thanks for this day, I'm doing good, everything's going to be fine, let me glorify you today. And like, Lord, I don't even have the words. He hears that and he feels it just the same way he felt her.
Yeah. Yeah. So many times when, I'm having my quiet time, I'll just be like, I don't want to ask you for anything. You already know what's needed. And then you just let it be.
I'm going to be honest, there are times I can't speak.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
There are times when you get in your place, and I think it's so important to have a place where you get in, and let your kids see you do it. Let your kids see that you have a place, and let them see that you are on your face before God. But when you get in your place, that everything kind of falls down a little bit. The Bible says that there are groans and utterances that he will understand. A sigh, he will understand. He captures your tears. He understands that, because we don't have to have the words to say. I mean, we're wordsmiths. That's what we do for a living. But if you don't have the words to say, you can't speak eloquently, you don't know what to say, you don't have to say anything. You just have to be present. It's enough.
Well, and have y'all, and I know you have, because I think we've talked about it before, but you have that day where everything is so wrong, and all you can do, And I mean, all you can do is just go help.
Yeah.
And it's not even out loud, it's a whisper. It's just help.
Yeah.
And he's there,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And to me, knowing that backup is there, it takes that little whisper to call down all the angels of heaven to back you up, to support you, to surround you. God sends them in a heartbeat because you are not afraid to call out to him. And instead of shunning him like we'll do, like, well, God, why are you letting this happen to me? How come bad things are happening to me if you're such a good God? Boom. You just give it to him in that moment, in that one tiny little breath.
Yeah. I'm learning how to say here over, the last few years of my life is even when you have those moments of trying to hold on to the joy, it is, God, I trust you. God, I trust you. So when you have those days where everything is going wrong, or you get the news that you weren't expecting to have, or, anything that could happen does happen to you, I just have to sit back and say, God, I trust you. Because when you trust him, there is the rest.
Yeah.
There is the rest. And when you can rest in knowing that even though the happiness may die down a little bit, or the joy may be turned down just a notch or two, it's that rest because of your faith in him, because God, I trust you is there. That's what keeps you going, for another day. I actually wrote this, that God often will give me a promise and then put us in scenarios when we wrestle with that promise. You think back to Jacob, the story of Jacob in the Bible, that he wrestled with God literally in order to gain his blessing. And God is intentional with the way that he deals with each and every one of us in that. And he cares so deeply about us stepping into the fullness of who he wants each and every one of us, how he created us to be. And sometimes that means putting us in an intentional training ground.
Yep.
So when that joy is hard to find, I have to think back to, I'm in training. I'm a warrior, right? That's what we are.
Yeah.
We are warriors for Christ. And so we are on an intentional training ground. So when that bad things happen, or that bad news comes, or something that happens that I'm not expecting, I'm just in training. I'm in
So
training
good.
for his next mission.
So good to remember that too, because if you think back, hopefully that we all did that on a faith journey, you grow and you learn things. And I look back 10 years ago, not fighting a battle the way that I am now. I'm from Rankin County. I might have thrown a punch, maybe not 10 years ago, but I mean, I put my hair up in a ponytail a couple times, but it's just, and you progress and you see the fruit of the training, basically is what you do. Cut some slack, first of all. And think about, especially if you're a parent or you love somebody, like and I used to hate this phrase until I had dogs, but I'm a pet parent, and I think about the things that I would do for my dog. Like I had a dog, Baxter. He was real sick and he would throw up and he would run and hide. And I'm like, I'm not mad at you. I can clean this up. I just need to make sure you're okay. And how much that sounds like our relationship with God.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not mad at the sin. That's what we do. He's covered that. He can take care of that. That's not a big deal. How are you? And if us as parents, it says in Matthew, if your child is hungry, would you give him a stone instead of bread, or a snake instead of fish? No. And if you, being evil, know how to give good gifts to your own children, how much more the Father in heaven? That's our dad. That's our Father who is looking after us like that. He is training us. He is there with us no matter what, but he's so much better. He's so much better than we are. And I mean, Barbara, you're a great parent. You love your babies, like your pet parents. You love your friends. I've never seen anybody love their friends like Therese loves her friends.
I agree
She
with
just
that.
loves her friends. But even the best of who we are and the best of what we have, we wouldn't withhold that from our children. Well, I'm sorry, you're not walking right today. You fell down in the driveway. Go to your room. We're not going to punish our child for doing that. And just like God's not going to punish us for doing that. Will he correct us? Absolutely. If we don't get it together, fine. But he loves us so much that he is going to meet us there and train us up on how we need to go.
And the thing that this kind of, I mean, it always goes hand in hand, because the thing that God's brought me in this stage of my life is what's real. Mm-hmm. And I say it all the time. Like when we talk about the things that happen here, it's not real. This is not real. These trials are not real. Mm-hmm. What's happening here on earth, it may stink right now, but I mean, this is where we endure the cross for the joy that's set before us, because this is ephemeral. This goes away.
It's hard to see it though when you're in it.
Yeah.
Goodness.
It is.
When you're in that pit, hey, we've talked about that before, haven't we?
Yep.
But if you think about, and we've mentioned this with Job before, when you think about Job, the enemy's whole purpose in dealing with Job was to get Job to change his joy, his faith, his peace in God's got this.
Right.
And that's how often the enemy uses situations in our life, is to get us to the point at which we can't crawl out of that pit. Because we don't have that joy, because we don't have that peace.
I know.
So hang on to that.
Yeah, and I love having these conversations. Sitting here and being able to talk about this with y'all is just such a blessing. It's something that we wanted to do for a long time, and now having the opportunity to do it. And I just want to pause for a second and thank those people that are helping us do this.
Yes.
And especially Complete Exteriors. They are our very first sponsor of our podcast, and we are so thankful for them believing in what we're doing and wanting to share this message. So if you have roof leaks or roof damage, I mean, we've had a mild storm season, but you never know, the sun this summer, if things are just not working, why don't you give them a call? They're more than roofing contractors. They're members of our community. They're like you and me. Been around since 2007. Complete Exteriors, they're hometown roofing contractors, residential, commercial, it does not matter. Why don't you call them today, 601-326-2755, or you can go to CompleteExteriorsMS.com. Even if you don't need a roof right now, why don't you just shoot them an email or something and tell them thank you so much for making this possible.
Oh, I love that. Yeah,
Yep.
tell them thank you for
Yep.
being our sponsor.
Yeah.
Our one and
Absolutely.
only sponsor.
That's right. And if you want to sponsor us, just hit us up. I want to go back to what we were talking about, Traci, when you were saying, there are so many things we have to hold on to: our joy, our peace, our patience, our kindness, and we're back to the fruit of the Spirit, right?
Right.
I thought about that.
When I was younger, my mom made this, and it was back when the quilt wall hangings were big,
Yeah.
and so it was on a canvas, and it was a quilted thing, and so she had made this tree, and then she had painted the apples, and they had the fruits of the spirits in it.
Aw.
Or the fruits of the Spirit, rather. But when you were saying that, we got to hold on to these things, I thought there's the tie-in, because you're rooted, you're planted in the water, by the water, and those fruits are the fruits of the Spirit. So I saw that tree in my head,
Right.
that one that my
Yeah.
mom,
Yeah.
made so many years ago. But it really is one of those things, all these virtues that we have to have, all these fruits of the Spirit, they do come through that faith in God. But when you stop and you look at each one individually, how closely interwoven they are.
Yeah.
It's like they all come from the same source. When you think about, love, joy, peace, they all have a same underlying, it's the presence of God.
Yeah, you can't have joy if you don't have love.
No.
And interesting that he puts joy second in line to the fruits of the Spirit, because you've got to have one with the next.
It's just a byproduct.
It is.
It's a byproduct. And again, joy is not happiness. Joy it's so much deeper. It's so much stronger. It's got better roots, than happiness. It's got better resilience than happiness. And joy is not always smiling and being great, in a great mood, and you're doing this or whatever. It's just that hope. I think hope and joy and love are so intertwined in that. So I love that analogy, Barbie.
And I think sometimes, those fruits of the Spirit are just like with any other tree. They take a little while to foster.
Yes.
So my parents have got several fruit trees at their home, and I remember the very first year that they planted those trees, most of the fruit trees don't produce fruit on the first year. I mean, you might have a little baby apple here or there, but the longer that tree stays rooted in the ground and gets the nourishment and the food that it needs, from the ground, and of course, rain from the sky, and every now and then some fertilizer by the dog. As long as it stays firmly rooted, you get the harvest year after year after year. And there are some years when their apple trees, for instance, or their peach trees will produce, just loaded down. And this was one of those seasons. My mother's like, I've got apples coming out of my ears, And then there are some years where it's not the best of crop. And then you can typically go back and think, well, how was the weather? What was going on at that time as to why there wasn't such a good crop? And pecans are the same way. They've got pecan trees, and there are some years where the pecans are just flourishing and some years where it's not. But if it stays rooted, it will stay there. It will stay and produce fruit. Sometimes the fruit may be a little bit jaded. It might have a worm that's gotten on it and gotten inside that apple, but even so, it is still fruit. And we have got to produce that fruit as Christians.
Well, and let's talk about, you were talking about the fertilizer, the nourishment. One of the things that I have found is so important because, we get too busy. We think, well, I go to church, or I'm reading my devotional book. That's what you hear. I'm reading my devotional book. But my life changed when I decided one year just to get in the New Testament and highlight. If you've got the red letters in your Bible, that's great. But I went through with a pink highlighter and I highlighted everything Jesus said. And I really looked at it, and things came to me like when he says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Yeah. These things where all of a sudden you get to know the heart of God, and you get to understand like what his love actually means and how unworthy we are, and what a blessing and what a mercy. And when you think about those things, how do you not have joy? But you've got to spend that time in the Word. And again, we're talking cliches here, but you've got to get into God's actual words to understand how much he loves you, and then how do you back off that joy?
That's where you get those roots.
Got to do it. You got to do it. And devotional books are great as tools, as accessories to the Word, but dude, you got to get in the Word. And that's one thing, the Word is never going to lead you astray, because a big buzzword, like for instance, from everybody right now, work-life balance. Traci, you don't have a work-life balance. You work 12 hours a day. You need to balance things out. So I'm like, okay, what does the Bible say about work-life balance? Why can't I get this right? Why can't I get this? And the more I studied, the more I looked for balance in the Bible, it doesn't exist.
Ooh, that's true.
Sacrifice does.
Yes.
Or an obedience. That exists. So he said, I'm not looking for your balance. I'm looking for your surrender. That's what I want. You surrender your day to me and I'll take care of it. And I think that's what the Bible says when it talks about my yoke is easy, my burden is light. You don't have to do these things that you can't figure out how to do them. When you get in the Word, he will tell you time and time and time again, hey, if you will surrender to me, just give it, and I'll take care of it. And we're always like, but I want it. I've got an idea for this. And he's like,
yes.
So that's the importance of the Word, because people well-meaning will tell you, well, you need to do this and this and this, when Jesus is like, just come to me, and I will take care of it.
I'm seeing the comment that Laura just posted on here, and Laura said, for sure, the tree has to be tended to and watered and fed and taken care of. So true. If we are not in the Word, if we're not in the Word and we don't have our prayer time with the Lord, that is our spiritual food.
Yeah.
I shudder to think where I'd be today, having gone through the things that have been public and the things that have been private.
Right.
Yes.
Where I would be if it were not for that spiritual relationship, with the Lord. That's how I hear from him.
I know I just said to use it as a tool, but one of the best Bible studies ever is Well-Watered Woman by Gretchen Saffel.
Yes,
and it talks about that whole nourishing, and her fiddler leaf fig, is that what she had, that she was trying to keep up with and do, and how God being a gardener. But that is one of the best devotional books. It's a study. It challenges you. So if you're looking for something, I highly suggest that.
Well, Y'all listen here. This has been good today. I know it's not Sunday and I know it's not Wednesday night, but I feel like I've gone to church.
We've been to church.
We have been to church. And I tell you, your comments have been, I mean, just off the chain. We're sitting here, we're able to read most of them as they're coming in live. And I dare say, you know, every single one of you have inspired us by the things that you're sharing here with the comments. So we certainly appreciate that. All right, so I'm going to let Therese,
Yes.
you kind of share what your challenge is for this week. What do you want to challenge us to do when it comes to joy?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think, honestly, I think we should each take the thing that we're going through in our life and where there is no joy, I mean, I know that we've talked about joy finds you, but let's try to find it. So like for me, you know, taking care of my dad in his older years, I'm kind of in a place where I'm finding joy in the idea that I get to be here for him, you know, and that I get to be with him during this time because it is such a, you know, it's such a sacred part of a person's life to be elderly. And so for me, there's the joy is being able to kind of give back to him, but also just to be here for this. Mm-hmm. So as we go on through the week, you know, when there's something that's making you go, ugh, maybe just stop and go, but on an eternal level, what is the joy here?
Traci, what you thinking?
I think there's a lot of things. I think along those same lines is letting myself be found.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not hiding, not saying I got this, I'm good, because I can fake it real good, real good. It's almost like that's what I get paid to do.
Yeah, you're very good at
Is
it.
fake it, you know. And I had somebody tell me actually this week, they're like, your mask is real good. I never would have known you were going through that.
Oh yeah,
you know. And I think the challenge for me is to be found by the one who gave everything to find me, and to stop
That's
trying
good.
to hide things from him. He already knows, but I think I got him fooled. I don't. But just to stop trying the defense mechanisms and just let him see the ugly and to let him clean it up. I think that's the thing.
Ooh, that's good.
Barbie and I
That's so
support
good.
that endeavor because there was that one day that you didn't go to lunch with us and we were like, how do we make sure Tracy's okay? And I was like, we wouldn't know.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
that is
know.
true.
I know. It's not it's not a superpower. I don't know how it got that. I think honestly, and I know this is not a counseling session, but I think I've just had my heart broken so much that I don't allow anybody close to it, including myself. I've locked it away, and I don't believe that it's worth anything because it's been trampled so much, and nobody will hurt it again. And I can't do that.
Right.
You know, I can't do that and continue to grow or be a person that tells you to love others and accept the love that Christ gives you if I won't. So that's a challenge for me.
Ooh, that's deep.
That is deep. And the thing that I'm thinking about right now is what's going on in my mind, which is that song that I grew up learning, I think probably in Vacation Bible School, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." And so what I want to challenge y'all with this week and all of our audience is to find a song that maybe you heard as a child, whether that be in Sunday school or Vacation Bible School, or if you've not heard one in years and you can't remember any of those, find one, find somebody who knows one, and start listening to that. Because sometimes at night when I go to bed and I'm singing those little songs in my heart and my spirit, I'll wake up the next morning with that song on my heart.
Yeah.
And you know, my mom used to always say that when you wake up with that song in your mind, that song in your heart, you know how I think it's in Psalms that it says that God sings over us?
Yes.
I
And
love
so
that.
she's like, sometimes maybe that's the song that God's singing over you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
So
I love
That's
Yeah.
good. So when
So-
we're having a day that joy is tough,
Yeah.
it's hard to be found. Let's find that inner singing voice and have that, whether you're singing that audibly or whether you're just singing that within your heart or your spirit, to remember that. Y'all listen here. I believe that we've got a winner because we asked you to share this podcast live. And our winner is Claudia David Pittman Hernandez.
Yay!
So,
All right, Claudia.
Congratulations. We'll have our main man reach out to you and get your address for that. And congratulations again. We have so enjoyed being with y'all. Would you agree to that?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm going to tell everybody, look up the song for King and Country called I Choose Joy. I think that's it. I think it's for King and Country. Anyway, I Googled. It's called I Choose Joy, and it's just an upbeat, happy song, and the idea of choosing joy. Let's do that.
Yeah, and I'm singing. Okay, we're trying to log off here, but Judy Prine just posted "Joy, Joy, Joy, Joy"
Yep.
down in my heart. Y'all remember that one?
Yep.
Oh, thank you, Judy, for that reminder. Now I'm going to be singing that song. Listen, thank y'all for being with us today on our 4th podcast. We will see you again soon on Y'all Listen Here.
It's a brand new day.